The stars shone bright in the dark sky above the planet Varel. Varel was one of the outer worlds in the Great Guild Dominion. It was a place full of strange plants and tall mountains. The people who lived here were not like humans, were tall with blue skin and many eyes. Their voices sounded like music when they talked. Far above Varel, a small ship fell through the atmosphere. It burned like a shooting star before landing in a deep forest. The ship was old and broken. Inside, a man lay unconscious. His name was David Carter. He was a human from Earth, a small blue planet far away from the Guild Dominion. David had not planned to come here. His ship was damaged in space, and he had no choice but to land on Varel. When he woke up, the forest was quiet. Strange sounds and glowing eyes watched him from the dark. David moved slowly. He did not want to scare the animals or the aliens. He had a kind heart and a calm mind. He knew he needed help, but he also knew he must be careful. Nearby, the villagers of Varel heard the crash. They were scared at first. They'd never seen a human before. Their leader sent some warriors to check the strange new visitor. When the warriors arrived, they saw David helping a small injured animal. He used soft words and gentle hands. The warriors were surprised. They expected a dangerous enemy, but they found a kind stranger instead. The village elder, a wise alien named Falcon, came forward. He asked David who he was and where he came. From David smiled softly. "My name is David. I come from a place called Earth. I am lost, but I want to help." The villagers did not understand Earth, but they could see David's kindness. They decided to let him stay a while. David worked with the villagers. He'd fixed broken tools with simple metal pieces he'd found. He showed them how to make fire stronger, and how to build shelters that could keep out the cold wind. The villagers were happy. They had never seen anyone so patient and clever. Word of David's kindness reached the capital city of the Guild Dominion. Queen Ilvari, the ruler of many planets, heard the news. She was curious about this human who was different from all other aliens. In her great palace, the queen sat on her throne. Her skin was a deep violet, and her many eyes shone like stars. She was known to be wise but very careful. She sent a message to bring David to her court. David was nervous but calm. The villagers helped him prepare for the journey to the capital. They told him to be respectful and honest. When David arrived at the great city, tall towers rose above the clouds. Strange machines floated in the sky. The people of the city stared at him. He was small and weak compared to their strong bodies, but his eyes held quiet strength. The queen's guards led David to the palace. Inside, the halls were full of light and color. David felt small, but he did not show fear. Queen Ilvari entered the room. She looked at David with many eyes. "Who are you, human? Why have you come to our world?" David bowed respectfully. "I did not come here by choice. My ship was broken. I want only to live in peace and learn." The queen was silent for a moment. Then she smiled slightly. "You are brave to come here alone. We will see if your words are true." The court began to test David. Warriors asked him questions about Earth. Scholars gave him puzzles. David did not have answers to everything, but he used his mind to find solutions. One puzzle was to build a bridge using only the materials in a room. David looked around and found small metal rods and wires. With patience, he made a strong bridge. The crowd watched in amazement. Princess Lyra, the queen's daughter, watched David closely. She saw not a weak human but someone smart and kind. She wanted to learn more about him. After the trials, the queen invited David to a quiet garden. Flowers with glowing petals shone softly. Lyra came with her mother. "Tell me, human," said the queen. "What is it that makes your people strong?" David thought carefully. "On Earth, we are not always strong in body, but we are strong in heart. We care for each other, and we try to solve problems with peace." Lyra smiled. "That is a strange idea for us. We often solve problems with power." David nodded. "Power can be dangerous if not used with care." The queen's many eyes studied David. She was still unsure but could not deny his calm and honest way. Days passed. David stayed in the palace. He learned the language better and shared stories of Earth. Lyra came often to listen. They talked about stars, about families, and about hope. One night under the twin moons, Lyra said softly, "I want to understand humans more. Will you teach?" "Me," David smiled. "I will try." The queen watched from her window. She was curious, but also worried. What did this human mean for her empire? For her daughter? The story of the human stranger was just beginning. The great palace of the Jill Dominion was a place of light and shadow. Tall columns rose like trees and halls stretched far into the distance. David Carter, the human stranger, walked carefully through these grand rooms. His eyes were wide with wonder, but his steps were calm and steady. He had learned to listen more than to speak. The Queen Ilverie watched him closely. Many eyes focused on David's every move. She was still unsure if this human was friend or threat. Her court buzzed with whispers, some worried, some curious, all watching. Princess Lyra stood near her mother. But her attention was only on David. The human had a quiet strength she did not see in many nobles. His gentle smile and honest eyes made her heart beat faster. "David," the Queen said, her voice like the soft hum of the palace, "you have passed some tests, but the court is a place of power. Here many want to prove they are the strongest. Will you face the true challenge?" David nodded. "I will do my best." The Queen smiled slightly. "Good. Then you shall meet our warriors. They are the finest in the Dominion." The warriors entered the hall. They were tall and strong, with blue skin shining like polished stone. Their eyes were sharp and their weapons long. They stepped forward, circling David. One warrior named Tizar spoke. "Human, your strength is small. How do you expect to survive here?" David looked at TSR with steady eyes. "Strength is not only muscle, it is also heart, mind, and will." The warriors laughed softly. "Words are easy. Let us see your skill." Desert challenged David to a test. It was a battle of wit and speed. Each warrior would throw a small, glowing ball toward David, who had to catch or dodge it. David smiled and moved quickly. He was not the fastest, but he watched carefully. I saw the patterns in the warriors' movements and learned to guess where the balls would go. Slowly, he caught many and dodged others. The warriors were impressed. "This human learns fast," Taser said. "Perhaps there is more to him than we thought." After the test, David was brought to the royal library. The room was filled with floating books and holograms of ancient knowledge. The Queen herself joined him. "Tell me, David," she said, "what do humans value most?" David looked around the room. Humans value many things, but one of the greatest is freedom, the freedom to choose, to think, and to live as one wishes. The Queen raised an eyebrow. "Freedom can be dangerous. It can lead to chaos." David nodded. "Yes. But it can also lead to hope and growth. Without choice, life is empty." Princess Lyra stepped forward. "I have many questions," she said softly. "What is family like on Earth? How do humans show love?" David smiled. "Family is where we find strength and comfort. Love is not just words, but actions. It is helping each other, being patient, and never giving up." Lyra's eyes shone with curiosity. "Your world sounds different from ours?" David nodded. "Different, but maybe not so far apart." Days passed, and David and Lyra met often. They walked in the palace gardens, talked under the stars, and shared stories. One afternoon, the Queen called David to her chambers. The room was quiet and full of soft light. She looked at him seriously. "David, I must ask, why do you show such kindness to a people so different from your own? Humans often fight and compete. Why are you different?" David thought for a moment. "I have seen much fighting on Earth, but I also believe that kindness is the true strength. Helping others makes us stronger together." The Queen was silent. Then she said, "Your words may be true, but the Dominion is a place of order and power. Can your ways survive here?" David smiled gently. "If we try, maybe they can." Meanwhile, the court began to talk about David. Some nobles were jealous. They saw him as a threat, a foreigner who did not belong. They whispered plans. to send him away, but Princess Lyra stood firm. David is not a threat, he is a friend. One noble, Lord Corrin sneered. A human? She will marry a noble, not a stranger. Lyra's eyes flashed. I will decide who I marry. The queen watched her daughter with a quiet pride and worry. One evening, as the twin moons rose high, Lyra and David sat on a balcony overlooking the city. The air was cool, filled with the scent of strange flowers. David, Lyra said softly, I have never met anyone like you. You see the world in a way I do not. You make me want to be better. David looked at her, his eyes warm. You make me believe that even a stranger can find a home. They smiled, a quiet promise between them. But the peace did not last long. The nobles grew louder. Lord Corrin began to demand that Lyra accept their plans for her marriage. The queen felt the weight of her duty. She loved her daughter, but also loved her empire. She did not know how to balance these feelings. David knew he was in a place where he did not fully belong. He wanted to stay with Lyra, but also knew the dangers. One day the queen spoke in the court. David, human, you have shown wisdom and kindness, but the path ahead is difficult. You must prove that you can walk it with honor. David bowed. I understand, Your Majesty. Lyra reached for his hand in secret. We will face this together. The court was full of tension. The future of the Dominion, the princess, and the human stranger was uncertain. But one thing was clear. The queen's curiosity had turned into something more, a desire to understand this strange human and the hope he brought. The palace was alive with whispers. News had spread quickly. Princess Lyra was refusing the marriage arranged by the court. The nobles were shocked. The future of the Jill Dominion depended on strong alliances, and the queen's choice was final. Yet Lyra's heart had chosen differently. David sat quietly in a small garden near the palace. The air was cool, and the flowers glowed faintly under the twin moons. His mind was full of questions. Could a human truly live and love in this alien world? Could he belong to a place so different from Earth? Suddenly Lyra appeared, her blue eyes shining with determination. David, she said gently, I cannot marry Prince Corrin. I love you. David looked at her with surprise. But you are a princess. Your marriage is important for your people. Lyra shook her head. My people will follow if they see truth. This marriage was arranged by others who do not understand what love means. I want to be with you, not because of power, but because of who you are. David took her hands in his. I want to stay here with you, but I do not want to cause trouble. Lyra smiled softly. We will face the trouble together. Back in the throne room, the queen sat with a heavy heart. She loved her daughter deeply, but the weight of her duty pressed on her. She summoned. David, human, she said slowly, you have won my daughter's heart. But this is not a small matter. Many do not accept you. They see you as a stranger. They say you are weak. David bowed respectfully. I am not perfect, but I promise to love Lyra and serve your people with all I have. The queen's eyes softened. Love is a powerful thing. But will your love be enough to protect her? To protect us all? David nodded. I will try. Days passed, and tensions grew. Lord Corrin and other nobles spoke openly against David. They warned the queen that the human was dangerous. Some feared that other alien empires would use David's presence as a weakness. Princess Lyra refused to listen. She spent every moment with David, learning about Earth and sharing dreams. She saw in him a new way to lead one with kindness, respect, and courage. One day, Lyra and David stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Stars blinked like distant fires. Do you think my mother will accept us? Lyra asked softly. David smiled. I believe she is curious. Curiosity can grow into understanding. Suddenly, a messenger arrived. The queen had called a great council. The future of the marriage and the empire would be decided. At the council, voices rose in anger and doubt. The nobles demanded that Lyra marry Prince Corrin to keep peace and power. But Lyra stood tall. I choose David. He is not a threat but a hope. David stepped forward. I am but one man. but I will serve your people honestly and with respect. I ask only to be judged by my actions." The queen listened quietly. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "Very well. David, you must prove your worth to the people. We'll travel the Dominion and show them who you are. In 1 solar week, you must win their hearts." David nodded. "I accept." Lyra smiled with relief. "We will do this together." The next day, David began his journey across the empire. The people were curious and wary. Many had never seen a human before. In one town, he helped repair water pipes broken by a recent storm. Using simple tools and his knowledge, he fixed them quickly. The people watched, amazed. "This human is clever," they said. In another village, David listened to the elders' stories. He learned their fears and hopes. He shared stories of Earth, of kindness and courage. Slowly, the walls between the human and the aliens began to fall. News of David's deeds reached the queen. She watched quietly, her curiosity deepening into respect. Back in the palace, Lyra waited anxiously. She believed in David and hoped the people would too. As the final day of the trial approached, the people gathered in the capital city. They were ready to decide if the human could be more than a stranger. David stood before them, humble but strong. "I am not from this world," he said, "but I am here to learn, to love, and to serve." The crowd was silent. Then, slowly, voices rose in support. "He helped us. He listens. He is one of us." The queen stepped forward. Her eyes met David's. "You have shown your heart," she said. "Now it is time to choose." People cheered. Lyra smiled and took David's hand. The queen's curiosity was no longer just a question. It was a bridge to a new future. The morning sun spilled light across the towering palace of the Jill Dominion. Birds with shining feathers sang in the gardens, but inside the grand hall, a tense silence settled. The Queen Ilvery sat on her throne, her many eyes watching David closely.
So the final test was about to begin.
David stood before the court, calm but ready. He knew what the queen expected, to win not just the approval of the nobles, but the hearts of the common people, the farmers, builders, and traders who made the empire live. The queen spoke in a clear voice. "David, you have traveled far and done well, but the true test remains. You must show that you understand our people. For 1 solar week, you will live among them. You will listen, help, and learn. Only then will I accept your place in our empire." David nodded. "I will do my best, Your Majesty." Princess Lyra smiled and took his hand. "We will face this together." The next day, David and Lyra left the shining palace and stepped into the busy streets of the capital city. People stopped and stared. A human walking with the princess was a sight few had ever seen. David felt the weight of their eyes but held his head high. He knew this was his chance to show who he truly was. Their first stop was a market full of colors, smells, and voices. David watched the vendors and buyers. He saw joy and struggle mixed in their faces. An old woman was trying to sell bright fruits, but no one stopped. Her eyes were tired. David walked to her and smiled gently. "May I help you?" The woman looked at him surprised. "You are a human. Why do you care?" David nodded to the fruits. "These look wonderful. I will buy some." The woman smiled faintly and gave him the fruits. David bought many, then gave them to children playing nearby. Word spread quickly. People began to approach David with small requests. Fix a broken cartwheel, carry heavy bags, share a meal. David did all he could without complaint. He listened to their stories and shared some of his own. In a small village outside the city, David found a school in need. The teacher was old and tired, and the children had few books. David used simple drawings and stories from Earth to teach. He showed them how to write letters and count numbers. The children laughed and learned. Their eyes shone with hope. Back in the city, Princess Lyra met with local leaders. She spoke of David's kindness and courage. Slowly, the people's hearts began to open, but not all were pleased. Lord Corrin and other nobles whispered in shadowed rooms. "This human weakens our power," they said. "We must act before it is too late." David heard the warnings but did not fear. He trusted the people and the princess. One evening, under the stars, David and Lyra sat by a quiet river. The water flowed gently, reflecting the moonlight. "Do you think they will accept me?" David asked softly. Lyra smiled. "You've already won many hearts. The Queen's test is about more than power. It is about truth." David looked up at the sky. "I hope so." As the solar week ended, David returned to the palace. The people had watched his journey. Many had spoken in his favor. The Queen waited. She rose from her throne, eyes shining with quiet pride. "David," she said, "you have proven yourself, not only in skill but in heart. You understand our people as few do." The court erupted in whispers and quiet applause. Princess Lyra stepped forward, her eyes bright. "Mother, that is the human I married." The Queen smiled softly. "Then let this union be a new beginning, a bridge between worlds." The nobles, once doubtful, nodded. Even Lord Corrin bowed his head, accepting the change. David felt a warmth in his chest. He had come as a stranger, but was now part of something greater. The Queen declared a celebration. The city filled with music and light. People danced and sang in the streets. David and Lyra stood together, hand in hand, ready to face the future. The Queen watched from her throne. Her curiosity now. Quiet hope. The royal city of the Jill, Dominion shone like a jewel under the twin suns. For the first time in many cycles, the entire empire was filled with joy. Flags waved from every tower. Music played in the streets. People from all planets came to see the event that would change their history. Inside the palace, Queen Ilveri stood tall in her shining robe. Her many eyes looked out at the crowd gathering below. She was still the same strong queen, but something in her had changed. She had watched the human, David, not with suspicion, not with something close to pride. She turned as footsteps approached. Princess Lyra entered the room, wearing a soft silver dress. Her eyes sparkled, but she also looked nervous. "Are you ready, my daughter?" the Queen asked. Lyra nodded. "Yes, mother." "Ah, I have never been more sure." The Queen took a deep breath. "You are marrying someone not of our blood. You will face questions, doubts, maybe even threats. But you have chosen your path." "I did not just choose him," Lyra said. "I chose the kind of future I want to build, with hope, peace, and honesty." The Queen nodded. "Then go, and let us begin." Outside, the great ceremony began. Thousands of beings filled the golden plaza. Soldiers stood in shining armor. Nobles wore their finest robes. Workers, farmers, children all stood side by side to witness something never done before. David stood alone on the stage, or a simple white robe given to him by the royal tailors. He had no armor, no crown, but he stood tall, calm, and proud. People whispered in the crowd, "That's the human. He fixed my brother's ship. My child learned how to read from him. Is it true the princess loves him?" The royal announcer stepped forward and raised his voice. "By order of Queen Ilveri, ruler of the Gill Dominion, we welcome this sacred joining between Princess Lyra of the royal bloodline. David Carter of Earth." Lyra stepped onto the stage beside David. She took his hand, and together they faced the Queen. The Queen looked down at them both. She spoke in a voice strong and clear. Many of you once feared this human, so did I. He was unknown. He was different. But he did not come to fight. He came to help. He did not demand power. He earned trust. He did not conquer our hearts. He healed them. She looked at David now, her many eyes gentle. David Carter, you are not of our world. But today, you are no longer just a visitor. Today, you become one of us. David bowed. Deeply, thank you, Your Majesty. I promise to serve your people with respect and love. The queen turned to her daughter. Princess Lyra, you have chosen a different path. It is not the easy one, but it is the brave one. May your love be your strength. Then she raised her hand. Soft golden light filled the sky. By the will of the throne and the hearts of the people, I bless this union. The crowd cheered. David and Lyra looked at each other. Slowly, gently, they leaned in and touched foreheads, a Jill symbol of unity and love. It was not a kiss, but it meant. Even more, that night, the palace was full of celebration. Tables overflowed with food from every world in the Dominion. Music of different styles played from every corner. Humans and aliens danced together, laughed together, and shared stories. For the first time, the people didn't see David as an outsider. He was family. Lyra sat beside him, smiling brightly. I never imagined this day would come. David laughed. Me neither. On Earth, I never dreamed I'd be married to a princess. She looked at him. You're not just my husband now. You're part of the royal house. David paused. Does that mean I have to wear a crown? Lyra grinned. Yes, and learn diplomacy. David groaned playfully, too late to run away. They both laughed. In the days that followed, the empire began to change. Slowly, but clearly. David did not try to lead with force. Instead, he visited schools, hospitals, and farms. He spoke to the people and listened. His suggestions were small. Cleaner water, safer machines, better roads, but they mattered. Aliens from far planets started to study Earth history and languages. Trade with Earth began. Cultural exchange programs were launched. Humans started visiting Jill cities and they were welcomed. Other alien empires watched in surprise. Some mocked. Some warned, but others began to ask questions. If a human could earn respect in such a proud empire, maybe humanity was not so weak after all. One evening, months later, the Queen and David walked together in the palace garden. The Queen spoke softly. Do you know why I was so curious, David? David shook his head. No, Your Majesty. She looked at him. Because you were different. And sometimes, different things can destroy what we've built. I feared that. But now I see. Difference can also help us grow. David nodded. I understand. Earth has many stories of fear becoming understanding. It always starts with listening. The Queen smiled slightly. You may not have royal blood, but you have a royal heart. Later that night, Lyra sat by the window in their private chamber. David joined her. The stars blinked across the sky, quiet and bright. She leaned on his shoulder. Do you think your people would believe this story? David laughed. I told them I married a beautiful alien princess and was blessed by a six-eyed queen. Maybe not. Lyra smiled. Then we'll just have to show them. They sat together, in silence, watching the stars. Two souls from two worlds, now one and far away. Queen Ilvery stood in her tower, looking down at the lights of her city. Her heart was calm, her mind was still curious, but now she understood.